So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you certain things that will hopefully make you think in the right direction, right? So that's what I have as an approach today, agenda today. Why is MBA? Why are the MBA application essays important? What do B schools really look for in it? You might have seen a lot of personal MBA application prompts. How do you approach them? How do you approach this why MBA essay? How to structure your career goals essay? And finally, how what are the next steps? How can you get an expert to actually help you draft your MBA application essay? All right. So let's start off with the first bit, which is the importance of the MBA application essay. Now, I want you to just pause right now for a minute, okay? And I want you to think about it. Um, what are the various components that you have in an application essay, right? So, not an application essay, an application, correct? So, you have your resume, which is what you have done. You have your GMAT scores. You have your, recommendation letters, and then you have your MBA application. Now, assume that at the first level, anyone going through your application is probably going to spend about 20 to 30 minutes going through various aspects of understanding who you are. And I hope you understand that knowing who you are is a fairly complex thing, right? It's 25, 30 years of your life. And how do I really explain that to a person in about 20 to 30 minutes, correct? So I think that's where, your resume is probably a page, correct? It's a summary of what you have done. Your recommendations are also important, but they are also limited. Your best bet to convey who you are in your application has to be then your application essays, correct? So what the B schools are looking for, I'm going to be getting to that in a short while, but really I want you to think of your essays as important as your GMAT scores, correct? And those GMAT scores are super important, and there is no doubt on that. But assume that when you are applying to a top B school, most people applying do have great GMAT scores. They have fairly good career progression, correct? But what differentiates a winning application from an application that does not make the cut is the way you are able to convey yourself in the essays. Okay, so we're going to be deep diving a little bit into that. What do B schools look for in your essays? Well, they are looking at a bunch of things. So I'm going to go through it in terms of 4 points. So the first thing is they are looking at clarity. They are looking at, is this a person who knows where he wants to go in life? Okay. Is he someone, see, because if you don't know where you are going, there is very little chance that an MBA is going to do help you in anything, correct? A lot of people look at an MBA as a goal, right? They say, oh, once I get into this top MBA program, and everything else in life will look clear to me, right? But what they are really looking at is, if you look at a top MBA program in the world, you're looking at somewhere around 1.5 crores, right? That's a lot of money, 1.5 to 2 crores, 2 years of lost income. That's opportunity cost. Why the hell would you throw that all away, right? For a life which really is a life of uncertainty, correct? So, would you be able to pull through? Do you know what you're getting into? I think that's one of the clear these that these schools look for, correct? And they are also wanting to understand that, do you know what to expect from a B school, correct? So it should not be that you get into a B school expecting some kind of a magic, it's not a panacea to your problems, right? It's not that magically all your problems will get solved, right? Whatever problems you have in your career, you're going to continue having them, and MBA is not going to fix it for you. You need to know what is it that you expect from a program. And thirdly, you also need to be you also need to understand that, look, everyone is saying the same things, correct? So I'll give an example, leadership essay. Tell me a time when you are a leader. Most people will talk about a time when their manager or their supervisor was not at work, fell sick, or moved out, and they had to step up. to the plate and deliver something, and they did that. They rolled up their sleeves and they made something happen. They got an award for it, and they realized that they could do so much. But pretty much everybody's writing the same stories, right? So what is it that you need to do to differentiate yourself? And in doing all of this, are you able to clearly convey your thoughts? Are you someone who's articulate? Correct? Because see, a B school cannot teach you the skill, right? Is this a guy who knows how to market himself? Think about it, right? Think of the B school as a, think about it this way. A B school is like a venture capitalist, correct? Like a VC firm. And what they are doing is they are betting on the startups. What are the startups? The startups are you guys, correct? Startups are, things that say, look, I got the potential, right? I have a plan for my life. This is how I am going to be a useful alum of your particular school, correct? So how well are you able to kind of clarify that? What in your background you bring to the table? How is an MBA going to help you? Is this person able to kind of tie all of it cohesively? Okay, and I want you to kind of reflect on this statement, and maybe you can even write it down. Okay, so this is the statement that I want you to think about, and you should write it down. Okay, in case you're not doing so, please do so. You can write it down. Ask yourself, how do I make myself the easiest choice for the B school? Okay, I'm going to say this again. How do I make myself the easiest to pick? Like the B school should look at your profile and it should be a no-brainer for them to say, you know what, but obviously this is the guy that I need to recruit this year, or take in this year. Are all of you clear so far? Am I making sense in what I'm saying? Just let me know in the chat window. I hope I'm on the right chat window. Yeah. So please go ahead, just be more generous in saying yes, so that I kind of know that all of you are on the same page. So, because what I'm going to do is now I'm going to segue into the next part, which is all of what you're saying, Arun, is fine. But my bigger problem is, how the hell do I tell my whole life plan in 300 words? Correct? So one is to, say all of this. You can talk to me. I can, sit with you for an hour and tell you my life story and tell you where I want to go. But you give me 300 words. Correct? So personal MBA application essay prompts are interesting, because I'll just give a couple of examples. Let's say, you're looking at this. What they are really looking at is, they are looking at the person behind the data. Correct? Why wouldn't these schools have a AI ML engine? That probably you just punch in your undergrad, you punch in your GMAT, you punch in your experience, you punch in all these variables, and then you click on submit. The next screen says select or reject. Right? That would have been a lot easier, right, for the B schools. But what they are really trying to do is, they are trying to see who's the person behind all these numbers. Is this someone that I would like to meet face to face? Is this someone that I would like to see on campus? Right? So what they are really looking at is, they are looking at who you are. And obviously, if you are making a claim, if your claim is that, let's say, I'm a person who's very innovative, right? I'm a person who is very enterprising, correct? I'm a person who's a hustler, right? In India, they say jugaad, right? If you're going to make all these claims, can you tell me that in the last 20 plus years of your adult life, how have you, what have you done, correct? You cannot just go up and make a claim. You have to back up your claim with stories, with examples from your life. Again, having that clarity of thought is very important, because many a times what happens is, I've heard students who tell me that, and I'm pretty sure many of you feel that way. How many of you have this? It's called the imposter syndrome, correct? So imposter syndrome basically says, oh well, I haven't done much, maybe other people have great stories to say, correct? Maybe they are Olympic athletes, or maybe they are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, I don't know, right? But I may not have enough stories to say. But what I've realized working with people is that there are a lot of stories that we have, right, growing up, who we are is baked from our childhood. I've had people pick stories from the time that they grew up there. One of them said that my father was in the army, which meant every 3 years I had, they had a transferable job, and I would visit all parts of India. And that has made me adaptable. That's made me pliable. Today, I can go into any company, any environment, and I don't have the problem of adaptability. Correct. So a lot of times, what happens is the stories are stories from your own life. Correct. In fact, I had another student who spoke about the fact that he was from a vernacular medium, which means English was not the first language. In fact, he did not learn English till about ninth or 10th. And then finally he joined the English medium school, and then he was in the village. He finally went to Hyderabad. He got through engineering, and his biggest success was by the time he completed his fourth year of engineering, he actually was speaking as part of Toastmasters in front of an audience in English. Correct. So that was a big achievement for him. That's the kind of stories, right? The person behind all those achievements, right? Who are you? I think that's one of the key things. For example, if you look at Rotman, I'm just giving you an example of a B school. This I'm going to read it out, which is uh, our admitted students stand out by doing interesting things with their personal and professional lives. Something we describe as the spike factor. What are the things that you have done in your life that demonstrate passion, grit, resilience, innovation, drive, ambition, and more? That's a lot of words, right? Passion, grit, resilience, innovation, drive, ambition, correct? This can cross all or any aspects of life outside of work: hobbies, volunteerism, awards, entrepreneurial ventures, sports, and the arts. We believe that exposure to a rich diversity of viewpoints make for a superior learning experience. I'm going to hold on to it at this point and just kind of make you think on this. Just imagine you are in a B school, right? What is it that you're going to really value from your classmates? Correct. You're going to value the diversity of opinion. So we once had a candidate who was a mother, right? She was a mother of a uh, you know 3 5 year old, and she was applying to B school, and and she got through, right? So she did have a break in her career for about a couple of years, but she got back to job. She went back to doing things. She had a very clear reason why she wanted to do an MBA, and she said, "Look, my experience as a mother, right, gives me so much perspective. Just imagine there is a class discussion happening on, let's say, a brand of diapers, right? So there is this case study on how diapers are being marketed to mothers, and you have all these 800-pound gorillas, these IITians and 770 GMAT scorers, quant jocks, as I call them. They are all looking at it from this, and suddenly she comes with a perspective which is so different than what you can expect from you can't expect from someone else but a mother. Correct. So I think that's what these schools are also looking at, right? The diversity factor, and what is that X factor that makes you tick. Um, and uh, and it goes on to say, and pride ourselves on building a diverse class of exceptional individuals who will go on to make the school proud as professionals and alumni. So the main line over here: explain your spike factor, something unique about yourself that you believe will contribute to the Rotman community and is aligned with Rotman values. Up to 1,000 words, right? That's a lot of words. In case you have not written in a long time, that is almost 2 to 3 pages of A4. Uh, if you were to look at an A4 size page, it's about 2 pages, correct? And here is the optional thing, very interesting. Please upload 1 to 3 of your spikiest pictures to the supplemental item sections of your application. Note, your photos must be uploaded as a single PDF. Now, think about it. If I were to look at your life in terms of spikes, right? So I'll give you some examples of what people have put in the past as spikes. So one of them, he had a visiting card put on his one of his spikiest moment, and the visiting card read something pretty fancy. It said CEO and some fancy title. And the spikiest story was, he said, I was 16 when I printed that visiting card. Correct. That is when I first wanted to get into entrepreneurship, and I ended up, and he spoke about how he had this brilliant plan, and he was just graduated from 10th. He was in 11th, and he had this plan with his classmates, and how eventually the whole path took him, right? So though he did not pursue that, but that was still the spikiest, because he said, look, it had everything that you need, right? From passion to grit to resilience to innovation, drive, ambition, all that you ask for. Correct. So it was not even a picture of him. There was another picture where someone else had spoken about how alongside their full-time job, they actually played the guitar, and every weekend you could find that person doing some kind of a gig. um, he wasn't saving the world, right? See, everybody has what they like to do in their spare time. There is what they are really looking at is over and above everything, right? How well have you constructively led your life, right? Your spare time, your pastime. Have you done anything constructive over there? So that's really what such an essay is looking for from you. Correct. So let me give you another very interesting essay. This is from Duke, and Duke has this. It's been a essay that they have had for a few years now. It's called 25 Random Things About Yourself. Correct. And it says present your response in a list from 25. Okay, guys, I want you to think about it. Random things about you. So I have had students write really random stuff. Like one of them wrote that I have this weird habit that whenever I look at a car number plate, I suddenly start doing kind of this mental math with it. I add up the numbers, or I try to find something unique in the combination. So, these are the things that B schools say will reveal who you really are. And, just as a case in point, why don't you do this? Why don't you just try and write something in the chat window, which could be, let's say, one random thing about yourself, right? Why don't you just take a stab at it? Anything random stuff about you. You can just go ahead and while you're typing, I'll just give you another example of. So someone else had written about what their name means. Correct. So they said when they were born, you know, um, there was some logic, the parents had behind their name. So it was a slightly, I would say, out of the line. Like it's one of those names that you don't expect. So they gave a reason of, why their parents named them that. Um, there was someone else who had written about the fact that they have always had pets of some sort in their home. By the way, I'm expecting that you're typing something in the chat window. I really would like to know. And just go ahead. If you type something, I can just tell you if it makes sense. But it's a good thing, even if you are not typing, but if you are thinking, correct, that itself is, according to me, a good place to begin. Because start thinking, because not just in Duke, but most schools want to know something different, right? um, yeah, so whenever you meet someone, you take his visiting card. So you could say, I have about 5,000 visiting cards, right? It's crazy, but I just have this thing that I like picking people's visiting cards, right? So um, it's just all of these, right? 25 things. When I hear those 25 things, there is really no way you can crack it. But I just want to get a sense of seeing if the person is interesting. Is this a person that I would like to meet in real life? Okay. Now I'm going to get on to the second question, which is how to approach the why MBA question, right? So most B schools have this question, which is why do you want to do an MBA, right? most of them are looking at reasons and they are saying, as I said earlier, is this a person who's clear about what he wants to do in life? Correct. Um, and the way I would look at it is you need to answer three things. So, in case you are reading about it, you can do this. You can take out a pen and you can write down these three things. Number one, in fact, I would tell you six things. In case you are able to answer these six things, you should be able to, kind of nail this essay. So the first thing that you probably are going to talk about is your long-term and short-term goal. So long-term goal, I'm okay with you kind of being a little generic, but short-term goal, I want you to be talking about three things. What is the industry? What is the function? What is the geography? Correct? You need to be very clear. What is the kind of company that you want to work for? What is the title that you will have? What will a day in your life look like? So, the more specific you are about your short term goal, the more the B schools would be convinced that you have that clarity. And a lot of times, students ask, Arun, I don't know what I want to do. And I say, look, you have to fake it till you make it. At least you need to have some clarity now. You can always go into a B school and say that, well, my reasons have changed. Correct. But while applying, you should have some idea of what is it that you need to do. Question number two that you need to answer: what in my background, what are the transferable skills that I bring to the table, which are going to, help me reach that goal? Right? And this has to be transferable skills. So let me give you an example of one of our students. He had great background, IIT Bombay, Sun 60 GMAT, right? He ticked all the right check boxes. He worked for, a top e-commerce website, let me put it that way. And many of the things that he did as part of his project was probably the first time it was done in India, correct? So he was at the forefront of digitization, right? So we hear about digitization, especially in a post-COVID world, right? But what is digitization? How do I take analog solutions and how do I take them and take them online, correct? So that's the kind of experience he had. So he said, look, so his post MBA goal was to get into consulting, and he said most of the consulting companies today they take up projects in digitization. And he said, look, I have had a ringside view of how, in an emerging market like India, correct, how solutions work, how strategy and execution have to go hand in hand, right? So that's where you need to kind of talk about the match between your goals and what you bring to the table. That leads us to question number three. If that is what you want to do, this is what you have done, what is it that you need? What is your requirement? Correct. So why MBA? Is it the fact that you need knowledge? Is it the perspective? Is it the network? Right. So you need to be very clear as to what are the things. And I'll tell you there are three things that pretty much most people who want an MBA will end up saying. And if this resonates with you, please go ahead and say yes in the chat window. So the first thing is, and I've said this in videos, probably Rachel, we can share one video from YouTube where I think it's a 10-minute video on why you should do an MBA. It's in fact I took the video when I was taking a class back in Koramangala in the pre-COVID days when I had a session. So it's a 10-minute recording of my session. And really, the three things that you need are what I told you. You need knowledge, right? Because a lot of times we come with our own worldview, right? If you're a finance guy, you will think in a particular way. You're a product guy, you'll think in a particular way. Your marketing person will think. What an MBA does is it makes you think like a CEO, correct? The second thing that an MBA does is, have you heard of this term? You don't know what you don't know, correct? You think you don't know a bunch of things, but what you really don't know is the stuff that you don't even know exists, correct? And those kind of perspectives, those kind of moments of epiphany, that the fact that 2 years of your life, you are going to 1 or 2 years of your life, you are going to surrender almost to the unknown, correct? uh, and I've had this from a lot of students who tell me that, Arun, look, when I was in college, I had the freedom. I lacked the perspective, correct? I lacked the maturity. Now that I've been working for X number of years, I have the perspective and the maturity, but I don't have the freedom to explore what I want to do. If I don't make mistakes, how will I know what I want to do? Correct. So that's the key that I hear from a lot of students, right? That it's also a journey to explore the unexplored. Am I making sense over here? Is Are you kind of is this resonating with you? That looking at knowledge, having a wider perspective of how businesses works, enhancing your perspective, and finally your network is your net worth. Correct? Your network is your net worth. By the way, please click all panelists and attendees, please, so that it kind of so everyone can see. So once you have kind of got this question down, you need to now tell why this specific school. So what I told you was the third question. Why MBA? Here's the fourth question. Why from this specific school? Question number 5. Why you among all the people, correct? Which is where we go back to the previous part, right? Of all the people, what is unique about you? That becomes question number 5. And finally, in question number 6, right, the question that you need to answer, why now? Because post COVID we are seeing a surge in applications, correct? So why should we select you, right? Why should we select you now? What has changed in your industry post COVID, correct? All of these are things. If you, so all of you, have you written down these 6 things, 6 questions? Short term, long term goals, what you bring to the table, number 2. Number 3, why MBA? Number 4, why a particular school? Number 5, why you among all applicants? And number 6, why now? If you get clarity on these 6 questions, trust me, all the other questions become a lot easier, right? And once you write it, so I'm just giving an example of what the Tuck School of Business had. I think these are all essays at some point in time. So I'm just going to, why do you want to earn an MBA and why are you choosing to apply to Tuck School of Business? If you are selected, how will you contribute to the Tux MBA program? Now think about it, a lot happening over here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you an essay that was written and I'm going to give you the first draft. I'm going to give you about a minute to read it. Think about it and then we will look at how we could have improved what is being said. Okay. So take a minute, read the first draft. There are a couple of slides, but I'm just going to go through the slides. Okay. I hope all of you are able to see and read it. So he starts off by saying, why MBA? And international MBA will help me gain exposure. An MBA will help me open new doors. So I just want you to read and think about what you think could be a potential essay issue with this essay. So once you have done reading, let me know. I can go to the next part. This is a slightly longish essay, so you can let me know in the chat. We have obviously not reproduced it, so we have masked some details in the essay. I'm going to go on to the next slide. I'm going to go to the third one. So, can you kind of tell me if you saw any issues with this essay? And I would like you to let me know in the chat window. Is there any issue, or do you think it's well written essay? What do you think? So first of all, I'll tell you it's 500 words, correct? So you also have word limit, correct? But any issues that you see, guys, if you don't let me know in the chat window, I can go through the slides, but I would like to keep it slightly interactive. Just wanted to get your thoughts on this. You could be wrong, that's okay. But yeah, and if you feel that there is nothing wrong in it, that's also fine. But I will tell you a big problem. When you say more attractive, see, that's an advice that I cannot give people, right? Grammar mistakes in a few places, okay. But there is a big glaring mistake in this essay. He talks about his goal, saying that he wants to be in sales, self-centered, okay. But in MBA essays, you have to be self-centered, no? Switch careers, okay, that's not a problem. Here is the problem, right? I do not know who this guy is. This is applicable to everyone. Just imagine if any one of you pick any statement. Can you write this statement? More for a treat, MBA will give me an edge to boost my personal. This is true for everyone applying to a B school, correct? This is true for everyone. It's nothing unique about this person, right? It lacks. I don't know who this guy is, right? This sounds like a generic, person who's like. I mean, it's a generic blog article on why someone should do an MBA. It does not tell me why this person should do an MBA. Now, I want you to, read this essay, which eventually was the final draft. Do you see the difference in the personalization? Correct. Now it is not just why anybody should do an MBA. It is now why he should do an MBA, correct? And he is also giving very specific reasons of how he will contribute to the school, correct? And how he can differentiate himself in that school, right? So I hope you're getting it. See, one mistake that people tend to do is they tend to quote generic things, right? One of the litmus tests is if anyone else can write that sentence, you should probably not write it, correct? Each sentence should be specific about you. what you hope to gain from an MBA, how an MBA is useful to you, how that particular school will be helpful to you. Correct? That's the key when you're talking about such essays, right? I'm going to go on to the next part, which is the career goals essay. Now, what happens in career goals essay? Same thing. You have to talk about the clarity that I spoke about in your post MBA goal, clarity about how an MBA is going to help you achieve, as you saw in the essay. Correct. So, I'm going to give you now the ISB prompt. So, ISB did have this as a prompt. I just want you to kind of take in the prompt. Okay. So now let's look at the draft that we got here. So again, any thoughts on what you think is going wrong? Can you tell me a big flaw? I can see at least a couple. Very technical, too much data. Correct? Too much data. I mean, look at it. Everything is about what he has done. I mean, these are things that I can find from your resume, right? And just giving data, and it just doesn't give me specificity. What I lack is specificity. I don't know what you mean by switch my industry from low voltage manufacturing to digital products and services. Correct? So yeah, so now let's look at the final draft of the same one. You see the clarity, you see the specificity, you know how exactly what he wants, you know exactly how his experience is going to help him, right? And you also know how ISB is going to help him achieve that goal. Correct? It's not just about ISB, being a great school, but it's about ISB giving him the specific ammo that he wants in order to get to his goals. Correct? That's right. So, by the way, I see a lot of people just picking all panelists. So, if you pick on all panelists, it's almost like a personal message to me. So, you can, if you want to share it, pick all panelists and attendees, right? So, if you see the longer term goal is still very generic, what I told you, but you see the short term goal is kind of specific, right? And you also look at the way in which it is worded, um, has to be specific, has to be within the word limit. Okay. So, what is it that usually happens when we follow a process? When I work with a client drafting a perfect MBA application essay, how do an expert? How does an expert help in the process? So I'm just going to give you some thoughts on this. So think of it as a kind of a 8-point thing. So what we do is when people sign up, what we do first is we help them connect with a mentor. Now, this mentor is typically a person who has been either in a school of the choice that a person wants to apply, or we try to pair them with someone who's in that same industry. And one of the things that we do in our initial brainstorming call, correct? There is certain pre-work. So we will make you understand what are the principles of good writing. So here is one tip that I have. Um, Especially when you want to talk about yourself, one mistake that I see a lot of people do is they tend to say, oh, tell me something about yourself. Oh, I'm hardworking, I'm smart, I'm able to show results, I'm dedicated, I have this, I have that. And if you're going to say 50 things about yourself, they are not going to remember anything about you. Correct? So what the way I look at it is, think about it this way. um, when you're writing your essays, you have 300 words, you have 500 words. Correct? And a lot of it is about bringing that focus into that thing. And usually when I start my consulting calls, my brainstorming calls, I usually work as a career coach. I don't even work as an MBA coach, I work as a career coach. And I say, well, what's your career plan, right? What is it that you really want to do? I encourage people to connect with people who are in that industry, LinkedIn is a great resource. You are connected with me on LinkedIn. I shared the link with you earlier. In case you get connected with me on LinkedIn, you get access to everyone else who's on my network, and that gives you access to all those people. So make sure you connect with me, but reach out to people on LinkedIn, right? Ask them, hey, what does a day in your life look like? Correct. Yes, obviously there are ways and means to do that, but so once we do the brainstorming, and brainstorming, when we do, we don't even look at the B schools, because I think unless and until you have clarity on what you want to do, the mentor is going to be a sounding board, right? The mentor is going to ask you, why are you doing whatever you want to do, correct? And that's where the first essays come into play. So then we pick the first set of essays, we start writing the first draft, and then that goes through a process of review. In fact, it goes through multiple rounds of review, because we understand that you have not done this before. So we are not going to spoon feed you, but we are going to handhold you, right? Because we know that you have not done this before, so you need that help. So that's where the review process happens. A lot of it is to do with, so my review process, I usually go through 3 rounds of review. The first round of review is a story review. Is the story even making sense? Are you even answering the question? Correct? Is this unique enough? Once we get the story in place, the second round of review is more about the structure. Correct? Are you structuring the essay well? Are you utilizing the real estate that is provided to you in the essays well? And finally, the third round is when we get into the grammar, the English, getting you to write your stories in under the word limit. Correct? So that's really how we have been helping. So these are all students who have gotten an admit just this year. So you see right from ISB to Ross, Schulich, Cornell, NUS. We have got students who have gotten into a variety of different B schools across the world. In fact, I worked with Shubham Agarwal in this list. So Shubham got into judge this year. So he was a consultant, had about 5 years consulting experience. He's going to be joining next year. He took a deferral for about a year. Um, so yeah, so that's really been our story. We have got people get into some of the top schools of across the world. So in case you want to, so we do have a PDF where we have got some sample essays where we have got students, like what I showed you before and after. In case you are interested to look at some sample essays that have worked for some of our students. Obviously, we have purged the personal details so that that's not divulged. In case you want help with your MBA application, in case you want to talk to an expert, get onto a one-on-one call with us. Please make sure that you kind of reach out to us. So that's the link, the one that Rachel has shared on the chat box. So make sure that you fill it out. So yeah, as promised, we went on for about uh, 52 minutes. So I have another 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be answering your questions. So in case you have your questions, I'm going to see if, can you just go ahead and ask me your questions in the Q&A box, please? So there is a Q&A box. If you can go ahead and ask me your questions, I'd be glad to help answer. Again, I can't get into profile evaluation at this point. For that, please make sure that you get in touch with us. We'll have an expert help you with that. But any questions about the whole MBA application process that I can help you with? Please go ahead and let me know in the Q&A box. I hope I was able to add value in terms of this. So yeah, so if you don't have any questions, that's also fine. So thanks for joining us today. And as I said, this recording would be available, but I'm open to answering any questions. So let me just give maybe another minute or so. Just put it in the Q&A box, please. That way, so instead of the chat window, if you could just put it in the Q&A box, it will just help me go through it a lot better. But I'm just going to take one that has come through chat, but please, uh, yeah, so I'm just going to take the one in the Q&A box. So Sarthak had this question: should we approach deferred MBA essays the same way? Sarthak, the same thing. See, deferred MBA program is for people who don't have the experience, right? You're still a college senior or you've just graduated. So see, it's never about quantity. It is never about the number of years of experience. It's about the the quality of your experience, right? So I would imagine that your deferred MBA essays are not going to be any different than your essays for this, right? So again, Ronak had the same question, which is there a major difference between someone who has 6 years versus 7 years? See, here is the deal. The more years of experience you have, okay, I'm going to argue is going to make life a little more harder, because many of these schools today also look for potential, correct? So they are also looking at potential. They are looking at someone with fewer years of experience, but someone who says, look, this is what an MBA is going to do to my life. So if you are just waiting to add more years of experience just to tick something, I would say don't do that, right? The best time to apply for an MBA program is when you are ready, correct? And you are able to justify your need. So that's what I would consider to be, the more important aspect. Quality, not quantity, correct? Um, Another question I had from Rahul is, do people coming from PSU operations background fit enough for making a good application? So here is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you an example of someone who actually came from a PSU background, someone who came uh, from a banking background. So she was actually working for a bank, a large nationalized bank. And what she said is, look, the kind of operations, the kind of leadership that I've had, the kind of customer interactions that I've had, the kind of so you know operations is something that people value. In fact, I'm going to say this for all of you who have technical knowledge. And sometimes I see people just being so, oh, I have just technical knowledge. I don't have managerial knowledge. Guess what? These schools want people who have solid tech background, right? So if you have technical background, that's power to you. Because with an MBA, now you have a deadly combination, right? A tech and a business background is just the background that people are looking for. So I would say use that to your advantage. We do have examples of people who have gotten it with such an example. So please do, don't undermine your effort. That's what I would say. Correct. Don't undermine. You have got great experience. A lot of it is how you are able to put it in a succinct way in front of the application committee. All right. So I guess that's all I had for you guys. Thank you so much for joining. In case you need anything, so those are our social media handles. We put out a lot of content. In fact, on our YouTube channel, we have almost all the top schools. I do a very detailed essay analysis lasting anywhere between 15 to 20, 25 minutes, where I go through each and every school, how you should approach, what you should write. So in case you're looking at that content, please make sure you go ahead and have a look, right? So thanks a lot. And very happy that I was able to spend time. I was able to give you some insights, and all the best with your application, and hope to see you very soon. Thank you.